Hi everyone, we'll get going at 3. I'm just going to put the comment in about who's speaking today. And then I will go find Marie-Catherine Cyr, our guest, but we'll start at 3 o'clock. And that's... Okay, posting this. Okay. Hello, New Brunswick Conservation Lab. Thank you. Just waiting for Marie-Catherine to join us. Not sure I see her yet, but we are starting just a minute before 3 now. Let's just see. And oh, hello. Thanks, everyone. We'll just let me just make sure. Oh, there she is. Okay, so. Aha!
Aha.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello, Marie-Catherine. Ça va?
Hello. Ça va bien? How are you doing?
Oui, ça va. I'm doing
Good.
well,
I
thanks.
think I'll just angle up a little bit.
Okay, and I'm just going to quickly turn something off that makes noise. Great. Well, it's 3 o'clock, so I guess we can get going. And I'll start by welcoming everyone to NGC House Blend Live on this Thursday at 3 p.m. Sort of a bi-weekly feature that the National Gallery has organized, mostly for this time of COVID. But of course, the gallery has reopened to the public from Thursdays to Sundays, so we're very happy to announce that. But it's a program aimed at allowing the gallery's public to get to know some of the faces behind the scenes of the gallery a little bit better. And so I'm Jonathan Shaughnessy, Associate Curator of Contemporary Art at the National Gallery. And I'm welcomed this week by Marie-Catherine Cyr, our Assistant Curator of Paintings Restoration.
Conservator.
Conservator, yes. It's because we go for the French to the English, and
Yes.
one of the most confusing is the fact that conservator en français is curator and restauratrice is a conservator in English.
That's
and
right.
Jumps. But welcome, Marie-Catherine, and just a few housekeeping notes before we get started. We'll talk for about 20-30 minutes today. Quite excited because I think you're gonna get off of your chair a bit later on and show us the place that you're in, but I'll ask you about that in a moment. But first, I'm not sure where everybody is in the world on this virtual space of Instagram Live. I'm in Ottawa-Gatineau region, as is the National Gallery of Canada. And as such, the gallery is located on unceded Algonquin and Anishinaabe territory. And before we start each of the house blends, I like to take a moment to acknowledge the keepers of this beautiful part of the world since time immemorial and up to the vital work being done in the present day. And also to acknowledge the presence in our community, our neighbors, of all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit in the region in which I'm a guest and have lived very happily for a lot of my life. So with that, Marie-Catherine, welcome again.
Thank you.
And thank you for being here. Really excited. You are, I think, our first guest on House Blend that I'm speaking with who has returned to the gallery.
I'm back.
I'm still at home.
Back in the building.
You're back in the building. And you came back, how long has it been? A few weeks?
It's my third week back.
Third week, okay.
Yeah.
And you come back to your office, and you have, as a conservator, 2 offices. So you have a kind of, a desk, window, office like I do at the gallery, but then you have another space you get to go to every day, which is behind you. So where are you right now?
Right now, I am back in the Restoration Conservation Laboratory at the National Gallery of Canada. And we're really lucky because it's a purpose-built space conceived by the architect Moshe Safdie as part of the plans for this beautiful building that we're in that was inaugurated in 1988. And so there's windows along the whole space to give us this like beautiful northern light, that pure light that's so important to our work. So it's a space that's right now I'm in the large. It's on 2 levels. So I'm on the lower level, the large conservation space for contemporary art, paintings, sculptures, decorative arts. And then right above us is another space for different needs, different objects. So it's for the paper objects. So photographs and paper objects are in a different space. So there's really windows along the whole studio. Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I know we'll get to see that in a little bit. I think I mentioned in our French conversation. I think in the previous building of the gallery has been in its present location since 1988. But I think before that, when it was on Elgin Street, I think the conservation laboratory was in a much different sort of basement or non-windowed space. And I know that it was one quite exceptional that the gallery was able to construct the lab really with the conservators, I think, for what they needed.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, it's a common thing to have when a museum is in a building that is not purpose-built to be a museum that is retrofitted. So everybody gets, every space is retrofitted for the different needs throughout the gallery. And oftentimes the conservation department laboratory ends up either in the basement or like in the sort of like attic space where there's not as much northern, like nice northern natural light. There might be a lot of artificial light, but we know we're very lucky here.
I have heard a rumor though that there may even be too much light at times.
We have shades.
I mean, it's interesting because it's sort of a similar in the galleries. When I think about, we have, the galleries are also really beautiful at the National Gallery and very generous in many cases, but there are those galleries that have wonderful light, and sometimes it's exactly what you want, and sometimes, especially with paintings and that sort of thing, your media, actually a controlled light can sometimes be a little bit better. But
well, actually, I should just say that there's UV filters on all of our slides. It's not like there's just like strong. There's never direct light in the studio. That's why we're facing north.
You think about that every time you see a window, MC. As a conservator, I think you're always like, what are the
where am I facing? Is there a filter in the window? Yeah.
How is it going? Because I mean, it's one of the big things with artworks, right? What is the main thing? I know what is the light levels on that painting or on the vulnerability, especially. We'll get into all of that, I hope, and certain things. I wanted to start, as we do, because mentioning that it's a way to get to know you a little bit better, although I should say that your Instagram account that we've looked you up on here, you have stories that are quite wonderful at times where you will show what you're doing as a conservator with particular objects, what tools you're using, even certain tricks of the trade. So I think if people are interested, they should definitely follow you to see some of that. But for now, we have you right here. But I think we've worked together, gosh, almost for the past decade. What was your path towards the gallery, if you wouldn't mind letting us know?
Well, I studied in college and university. I started out in science, so biology, chemistry, physics, and then I moved into art history because I'm more of an artist at heart, at my core. But I still have, so I did art history in university, but I still wanted that bit of science. So I just found a profession that would just like blend the two seamlessly into this very, very interesting career that is art conservation. So then I did a master's degree in art conservation, specializing in conservation of paintings. And I did that at Queen's University in Kingston, because it's still in Canada the only program for a master's program for conservation of paintings. And then I worked in different labs at government level. So in terms of federal government, Canada, and then provincial in Quebec. So there are conservation labs But I really wanted to work as part of a museum, just to know a collection, to take care of a collection. And I really love the idea of giving access to a collection. So, and exhibitions. I frequent a lot of museums myself. It's something I really love. And so I found a professional home here that I'm very happy with. So I've been here like almost 10 years.
Yeah, and I know when we were talking about that, I know it's wide ranging, even our colleagues in conservation with different areas of specialties, some that work on very ancient objects, others like you that work on some historical paintings, but right up to the modern period.
Yeah.
And you were saying in some ways that interaction with, you don't always work with living artists in the artwork, but there's something about that you sort of like, that you're in a realm where these works are made by artists as opposed to maybe some very ancient object that might have a different history that you'd always be cut off to in some sense.
Well, there's always a creative impulse that you find when you're working on an object, whether it be like a utilitarian object. There's a creative impulse. But I love working with objects that were created to be looked at as, just art, pieces of art. And I love talking to artists, seeing how they think, how they conceive of things. And so, yes, we all have the different, here at the National Gallery, there's, we all have our specialties. So there's like the conservation department, but there's like different teams within that department according to the different materials and type of objects. So we have our specialties.
Yeah, and we had a few weeks back, earlier on in House Blend, we did speak with Geneviève Saunier, our conservator of contemporary art. So that's there for people to watch, because all of these are also available in IGTV after they go live. But I wonder if you could let us know, because we heard from her sort of a day-to-day of contemporary art. But I think it would be interesting to know, this is pre-COVID, your sort of average day. Do you start every day in this beautiful lab that we're going to see, or what sort of is the role of a paintings conservator at the gallery?
Well, you have to know that working as a conservator in an institution like this, as I would love to just pick a painting and work on it, but that's not really how it works. So our work is driven by the gallery's activities. So whether it be acquisitions, loans, exhibitions, ongoing collections care, so anything that's like in the vault that is not on display, and or a little bit of sort of a treat is when we can do research and contribute knowledge and share knowledge. So yes, I work in my office and I work in the lab, and it really depends on if we're receiving an acquisition, and then I make a full detailed examination report. I make recommendations for long-term preservation, for storage, for transportation. Is there a conservation treatment that is required immediately, or in terms of, let's say, contemporary art, which is another area, they will look at obsolescence. Is there like a technology component to it? How do you look into the future to make sure the artwork will be shown and will remain close to the artist's intent? Retain the integrity of the work.
Right. Yeah. That's also I know where we conservators and curators will often cross paths when it comes to maintaining that integrity and intention of the artist. And I think it's there's very active dialogue, I think you would say, of exchange. This is why I find it so. Here I am, looking at you in the lab, and I'm not there, but I know it's a space that often, not every day, but some of our colleagues in curatorial, certainly more historical, might spend a lot of time in the lab. I know some of our colleagues, in terms of working on aspects of technical art history and thinking about more and more, I find conservation is, yes, it's about the restoration of works, but there's also a whole branch which is about what we might discover art historically speaking based on these findings. And I find that's a whole area of research that's really fascinating, and I think increasingly prominent within museums.
Yeah, there's a whole really, really interesting overlap there between art history and conservation within the realm of technical art history, where you can learn about the works, about the artists, about the materials, about the techniques. If you go look at really like the body, like the core of the work through instrumental methods of analysis. So you get out of the textbook and you really look at what is there.
Yeah.
Right?
That
Yeah.
must be, I mean, have you like made any of those discoveries? I mean, in your experience, are there memorable moments of a particular work that you've discovered something new about?
Well, not necessarily something new, but something forgotten.
Yeah.
Like if you're doing like a cleaning, so I have my tools with
Oh,
me
yes.
here.
You were going to do a bit of show and tell of the tools. That's good.
Yeah. My swabs seem to have disappeared, but
Of course.
if you clean the surface of it's right here.
Very good.
Yeah, so we roll our own swabs, and this is not a COVID test. This is
Oh gosh. Yeah.
this is a swabbing lab. So if we clean part of a painting, and sometimes through history, parts of the surface could have been obscured with overpainting. So actually painting over the original surface. Then when you reveal, you can find the original colors. Sometimes it's completely different design that was there originally that got covered up. Sometimes there was, some water damage or some type of damage, and just the way back, whoever repaired it just like painted like over the whole section. So if you undo a restoration and you do a proper treatment, you can find signatures, you can find inscriptions, you can find different motifs that will infuse, like give a different meaning to the painting. So that's always very, very exciting. And of course, sometimes X-rays, you can find a whole other painting underneath that you don't even need to actually physically touch the painting. You can see another painting appear, or an underdrawing with infrared reflectance. You can see actually the drawing under the paint layers, which is like fascinating.
Yeah, no, and I think that aspect of your field in certain restoration has gotten a bit popular, maybe for the wrong reasons, in the last year. All of these kind of jobs, of restoration gone bad, that seems to be a viral thing now every once in a while. I know that you guys share it too, so I don't feel so bad sometimes.
No, I mean, you better believe that once one of those, hack jobs goes up, like everybody sends it to me. Like,
I bet you're receptive for that. Well, if we speak of the kind of jobs that the gallery does, and I know it's at a very high level and very professional, I think you were going to do a bit of a show and tell. You're in your space and you have a toolkit next to you. So what are some of the maybe tools we wouldn't know about, or key things that you use, and maybe not every day, but that you couldn't do without?
Yeah, well, I have my tool cart next to me, and you'll get a glimpse of that later. But I mean, the loops, the optimizers.
I so wanted you to do the whole interview with that.
I think that's enough. You get the point. So we have our optimizers, our sort of a portable magnifying glasses. It's a tool that we use a lot because we work under the microscope, but like to move around, it's really convenient. Actually, conservation is a very small professional community, so we actually don't have a whole industry to make tools for us. It just wouldn't be. It wouldn't work. So conservators have to be very creative in making their own tools or borrowing from other professions. So we order tools from like the hardware store and from the highly specialized catalogs like medical catalogs or dentistry. So I have like
MC, can I just, somebody said frozen there, but can somebody else maybe, no, I don't, I see, we seem to be fine. So I just want to make sure, can someone else, okay, Monique, is it okay, the image? Can someone do a thumbs up if you're seeing us?
I'm seeing you just fine.
Yeah, and Monique just asked a question, so I'm hoping we're still fine.
Okay.
Someone just said frozen, so maybe carry on. I mean,
Okay, thumbs
yeah,
up.
we're good. Okay.
Thank
You,
you.
everyone. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So
Okay,
we'll get
go
back to
for it.
that question. Did
Yeah,
you make
so,
note of it? Okay.
yeah.
This is like a dentistry tool. So we use those, very convenient, and all sorts of like little, tiny micro spatulas, scalpels, tweezers, all of that. We all have our favorite brushes, so
I'm
in
sure.
painting brushes. So it's not a myth, we do in paint or retouch with these like
Yeah.
tiny brushes. And I have a porcupine quill, which is not, widespread in terms of a tool, but a colleague bought a few and I tried one out, and it's like, it's a porcupine quill. So it's like, it's very flexible. You have like a very pointed tip here that is not, that won't like cut through things. It's just like very, very fine and flexible, and you have like a more robust, this is the end that would go into the skin.
Yeah.
And so I use this on occasion.
What would you, like for very, very fine detail areas?
Well, sometimes for scraping,
Okay.
depending on the surface. But
Yeah.
I mean, scraping, sometimes something is like very gummy and it's lodged in like a recess in the paint layer, and you just want to pick it out. You can pick it out with that. It's like very, very fine. And I have these nifty little scissors.
Yes, show me.
Yeah.
This is innovation, I think. Yes.
This is innovation right here. I mean, some of you might know it's like slightly curved, like rounded edge, rounded tip. Those are nose hair scissors. And I find, I mean, they're fairly cheap, and I use them if I have at the back of a canvas. Sometimes you need to clip, like if you do a repair, or you need to clip like tiny threads. You can get really, they're sharp enough. You can get really close because of their shape, and they won't puncture through the canvas because they're like very round and blunt. So there we go.
Is there, I mean, I know when, thank you for that. And I know, no, I mean, it's just interesting to me, from dental tools to, regular tools to very specialized. And I know some of the larger tools are quite specific, like the ventilators that you have behind you. I mean, there are things that, are needed in the lab. But are there, I know when technical services, we've had the tours with them. And I know one of the things there is that because also they're in quite a specialized field of crates and how to put things upright in a gallery. And so they tend to share very openly with one another, collegially, between museums, between other professionals. Is it the same in conservation? When you chat with colleagues and stuff, is there sharing of tips and ideas?
Yes, it's a great professional community. So in some jobs, you might have like a professional association within a city, or that happens in conservation, but really our colleagues are worldwide. So if we have like specialists in a certain type of plastics and we have like a very pointed question, we can just email that person, because we know about them because we've seen them at a conference, or they publish, or they come up in one of our search engines. And so yes, we do share tips, and it's really our field is evolving constantly.
Yeah.
So it's really important to keep up and share knowledge. So share knowledge between conservators, but also across fields. So you mentioned our technical services department. I learned from them as well. And so
like with some of the things they might come up with and handling, or to be able to deal with the situation. It leads me, I mean, there are so many sort of questions I would have, just and maybe but I'm wondering, I mean, okay, so you work with historical paintings for the most part, so you're used to thinking about oil, maybe on canvas, or possibly wood in the olden days, or maybe you did. But do you ever come across, I mean, how regularly is something that would confound you, like a process or an application where you'd be like, okay, this seems rare to, like, I guess, how many times would you find something where it's like, okay, this is a process that I need to look into because I haven't maybe seen it. Do you know what I mean? Like, is that?
Yeah.
I know in contemporary art, every day it could happen because artists use any materials. I'm not sure how it happens in historical world.
It happens if you work on a painting by an artist that you've never worked on his or her work before. So there's a learning process. You need to get acquainted with the artists and the methods and the materials. So we don't go right away and like clean something right away. There's like a fair bit of testings, mock-ups, research to do depending on the case. But myself, I work on historical paintings all the way up to modern. So in some cases, the artists are alive and they have used like different things, or even if they took notes, sometimes they didn't write everything down or they didn't remember, or that's where all the sampling and testing comes in handy, because you can have a fair bit of answers that way. But yeah, you're always learning.
Yeah, it's it's fascinating, and I think that a lot of us are always asking, because that's a part of this process too, how the artist had come to something. And I know even when we're doing our acquisition reports and presenting, you need to know sometimes what led to what. There's a related question which might be suitable right now and I think then I'll get you to take us on a little tour. But are you ever nervous? This would answer that, when working on the more valuable pieces. So yes, you sort of said you don't just go directly to the old work.
No, but there's a key word in that question. That's a good question. The word valuable. So we treat everything as if it were,
invaluable.
Take your pick. Yeah. Yes, Rembrandt, whatever. We treat everything with the same object, with the same level of care. And you do get nervous when you don't feel. It can after some experience, it can feel very intuitive, but you can't fall back. You can't stay comfortable. You always need to question, to look at what's in front of you, and question, go through the steps, right? Yes, you do. You can get a bit nervous, but I mean, we have a whole code of ethics. We have a whole process we go through, and we know that if we do all of that, we'll get there slowly, and we'll find the answer.
Right.
And I guess it comes with experience as well.
Well, and there's two things that, as I understand it, and maybe it's important to share here, is restoration is really that you're never replacing something, you're not doing something new. And also, isn't it also the case that many of the things, or most that you do, are reversible should it need be? Yes.
So that's one of the key aspects of our work, because the field is ever evolving. As much as possible, your interventions, your treatments are reversible, to go back to the original layer, original material, so that if technology evolves 100 years from now, and there's a much better way to restore or to conserve an object, to treat an object, then you can remove what was done in the past, and then do it hopefully a better way. Also, the materials we use when we restore are not the same as the original, because we need to see, there needs to be a difference. So just in terms of strength and solubility, like if you clean a painting and it was retouched with oil and it's on top of oil, then how does your solvent know which one to remove, right? So we use different materials to restore, and these materials age in a different way and different rate. So sometimes you can have, it's like a perfect color match, texture match, but after a few years the both age slightly differently. Now we're more we work with that in mind, very much so. But anyways, just to say that we can restore. And your original point in the question was, we're not covering original material, right? We're just going in where something is missing, right? Where the original material was lost.
It was lost, yeah.
Just to recover like a good legibility of the surface, so that your eye is not like doesn't go directly to the
Sure.
area of damage.
Sure. There's so much, and I know we're actually coming up already on about a half an hour, MC. So maybe I was going to ask you how your daily work and routines have shifted now that you're back in this new era of living with the daily realities of COVID. So maybe by way of kind of looking around the lab, because I'd love to show people where you're at. Can we start with how your daily routines have been affected? Because I think it's affected the lab too.
Yeah, so I'll say briefly two things, and then we'll go and take a tour. So coming back to work. So I'm actually one of the few departments, conservation, back in the building, but I'm still teleworking half of the time. So when I'm in lab, I'm really focused on the objects, on the work I have to do here, and anything that is reading, report writing, research that gets done at home. So that's like one change. But to be able, in preparation for reopening of the gallery, because it's been since mid-July, we're open from Thursdays to Sundays, and we're so excited to see people back in our spaces and enjoying the art. But we had to think about everybody, how the experience would be different, and how to protect the art and protect the visitors, because fundamentally conservators think about long-term preservation of objects while giving access to objects, and keeping in mind the intention of the artist and also the visitor's security. So all of those factors mixed together, we problem solved for the back to work and back to opening our doors to visitors. So just an example, hand sanitizer, right?
Yeah,
sanitizing
it's everywhere now.
It's everywhere. But we had to be involved. It couldn't be something, it had to be safe for visitors, but also for anything that they might touch. Now, please do not touch anything in a museum, in an art museum, unless it's an interactive work. But yes, so there couldn't be gelling agent, foaming agents, additives, perfumes. It had to dry, had to evaporate quickly, because you don't want visitors to just have like gooey hands or wet hands for a while going in. So conservation was involved in that aspect of things, right? And as well, like I said, interactive works, you're touching things. Well, now you don't want many people to touch the same surfaces. So if an artwork had an audio component with headphones, then we had to be in discussion with artists. That's the other thing. Going back to an artist's intent, we can't just say, oh, we'll remove the headphones, because that's part of the artwork. So in discussion with the artist, and that's my colleague in contemporary art, who took care of that. But so removing the headphones and then having directional speakers, we had to restrict access to some artworks that couldn't be disinfected repeatedly and safely, right? So all of that had to be taken into consideration, and we're applying design thinking. So we're adjusting. We're seeing how people are evolving, if people are keeping 2 meters away, 6 feet away. And we are adapting. So we actually do go into the galleries and see how people enjoyed the space, taking the space in this new way. And speaking of space, workspaces as well. So this is a common working space. Now we have staggered sort of like work schedules. So there's not many people in lab right now. But it's a space that we share. So we all use the same space, we have personal tools, but we also have tools that we share. So what we've done is that we've actually divided the studio and workstation. So I'm only working at my workstation with my tools, and we have the fanciest disinfectant pump out there, the Dahlia sprayer with the liquid disinfectant. And so the conservation work, so the work with the objects is not necessarily like fundamentally different, but the way that we work as part of a professional family or community here at the gallery is different. So like, I know you like to come to lab to talk about new acquisitions or different artworks. Well, that it's a restricted space for the time being, and so yeah,
We're
we
booking
try
appointments.
booking appointments. We try to minimize movement within the building for the staff.
Yeah. And you've had to label your chair now, I understand.
I've had to label my
So
chair.
so there you go. You're gonna show us
So
that.
I will.
Oh yes, and your mask. We didn't ask at the beginning. So you have your new reality when you move. You have a mask, and you want to.
I have a
tell us-
mask.
Yeah, you like
So-
me have started collecting masks.
Yes, it's been a few months now, so we have a few people have quite a collection, and I love to support the local economy and local artists and artisans and designers. And so I have a whole bunch of masks that I've ordered from designers in Canada, specifically Montreal. And this is from a Montreal designer. It's a nice, very chic, very comfortable black mask by Body Bag by Jude. And so,
Very nice.
you know, it's a new accessory. It's safe, and you can treat it like you can match your outfit, have fun with it. So because there's other people here in lab, so because I'll be moving around now for a little tour portion, I will actually be putting it on. So if you want to say something, I'll just take my headphones out.
No, go ahead. Yeah, do put it on, and then we'll go with Marie-Catherine to perfect. Yes. To the front, I think how we would enter the space.
Yeah.
So you're going to take us there.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You can still hear me. Okay. Hey. So I will start by showing you my chair, because we all have our. So this is my workstation, and this is my tool cart.
Yeah.
And this is my chair, and I don't know if you can see. It says MC's COVID chair.
Yeah, there it is.
So that's the chair that I'll be using. And then I'll just take you through, take you to the entrance of the lab. Now this is a large lower level space. So we'll actually start the tour in the contemporary art section. And then all the way back in the second lab space is sculptures and decorative arts.
Okay.
So at the entrance, we have frame racks. And then, so this is just to show you the view.
Yeah, there are the windows you were talking about.
Yes. So here we go. This is a lab space. It's very quiet right now. But I can take you to this table. Oh, actually, we're coming by this table. This is a vacuum table. It's a hot table and a vacuum table. So there's one here, and there's one here. You can see all the different dials and commands there. But this is there's a cover on that table right now, but it's a perforated metal table, and it's used for in painting conservation for lining. So it's applying another canvas to the back of an original canvas.
Right.
I'll show you an example. But here we have a little Tom Thompson sketch.
Yeah.
It's
nice.
snow and rocks. And actually, I wanted to show it to you because at the back of it is a nice sketch by Tom Thompson.
There you go, and that
there you go.
Yeah, I think I asked. I don't think we've shown that back sketch, and as you can see, I was astonished that some of the stamps, the gallery used to just be a bit more cavalier than we are now. I think.
Yeah, that was at a certain time that was practiced to label and that is the official Tom Thompson seal there.
Okay.
Yes.
Great.
No, we do not label artworks like that anymore.
Yeah.
And this is a painting by Antoine Plamondon, a Quebec artist, Canadian artist, from 1838. It's called The Last of the Hurons, Zachary Vincent. And it's a very important piece. It was actually in private collection for 180 years.
Wow.
And and now it's in the National Gallery, so I will be restoring it. We got it just not even 2 years ago. So I will be restoring it for official unveiling and presentation. So as you can see, the tacking margins. So a piece of the original canvas was cut off, and another canvas was glued to the back with wax, but it was adhered to the back of the original canvas, and so this is non-original canvas, and so that would have been done. I mean, nowadays we would do that on a lining table, but we actually don't do a lot of lining these days. Mm-hmm. But the conservator who did that actually covered an inscription by the artist Kamoto on the back of the original canvas. So actually we have, with a very nice calligraphy here, he sort of noted what the inscription was. And we're going to see if maybe we can remove the lining and uncover, because the original canvas and is in pretty good shape, actually.
Oh, so you might be able to reveal that original.
We might. I'm not making any promises.
No, that's okay. We won't. You've heard it here first. There you go.
Yes. So if we continue the tour, that is something. Those are padded backing boards. Mm-hmm. So we have here a piece of coroplast with polyester batting, and another one here with solid inserts with a nice little smooth foam. So this is something that we would put at the back of a canvas, of a stretcher, and these would act as like little pillows so that the canvas would rest on this. So if you take this is a Paris, if you take the back, if you put that at the back, and then it rests against the back of the canvas. Then it's one of the means to protect a painting during travel. Mm-hmm. And now we're going into the sculpture and decorative arts. We have an X-ray room.
Oh, right, which we were talking a lot about before. Yeah,
we have an X-ray room. We do our own X-rays. And then it's a fully certified, regulation compliant. So there we go. It's a bit in dark now. I didn't turn the lights on. I wanted you guys to see the space, but also the nice view.
No, it's great. And I know that, that can be a very interesting room to visit as well. Lots of Inuit sculpture, old textiles. I know that my colleague, Nicole Burish, is very interested in some early 20th century, even I think late 19th century textiles that we pulled to have a look at that have never been shown. And we were talking with our conservator in that area about that. It was fabulous. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's nice to have time to do that. I know it's not, there's so many things that are scheduled and the kind of work that, as you mentioned before, with the daily kind of things that have to be done. But sometimes when we can carve out time to see things and be able to research really by looking, it's a very special time. And, can't always do it, but it's great when we plan for that. So that's great.
And we learn from you, and you learn from us. So having this dialogue is really beneficial for the objects and for everybody who enjoys looking at the objects, because we uncover secrets that we can then share.
Yeah, no, it really is. And I think the goal for the whole gallery and working with everybody is really about the care and preservation and exhibition of this collection. And it sounds like, you've tied in how that all comes together from your part of it all. So, no, this has been really, really great. MC, there was one question, the previous question, which was, I think, something you touched on in the French presentation. I don't know if I can find it there now, but it was basically saying when you are working on an exhibition as a conservator, do all of the artworks in that exhibition have to be, is there work to do on all of them, or do you only look and focus on works that actually need something done to them?
All of them get examined, and they get a thorough condition report. Not all of the works need actual treatment. Sometimes it's just like adjusting framing, or if with 3D objects, sometimes the object will be fine, but it will need a mount, an exhibition mount. So that is something that the conservation is involved with. In terms of not everything, it depends if it's NGC collection objects, or we receive loans as well. Most of the time when we receive loans, we just
You won't touch it.
examine. We don't touch it. They're not ours unless we have a previous understanding, agreement, or if there's clearer communication and we get the okay that this needs to be done, then we will. Yes, but also for like contemporary art, my colleagues work with artists all the time for installations, and this at a time, sometimes a work is literally created when you install it, like when you bring everything together, because it can be a different iteration in a different space, just a different iteration, because, you know, let's say it's an installation, you come in this way, you go out this way, the size of the space is different, so every time they put up an installation for the first time, there's so much to document. This is also part of conservation, documenting thoroughly the work and what level of change is acceptable for the artist.
It's actually, those documents are incredible. I mean, with some of the more intricate, I mean, we have works in the collection. I'm thinking of work by Sarah Zay, the American sculptor, that 360 portable planetarium. And I mean, it's got thousands of little bits, and the installation of that, I mean, the artist assistant was on hand for the first time we installed that, but just the documentation that was done by the conservators, by Geneviève at the time, and her team, it's incredible. And, you know, that's, but it's also invaluable because, you know, it's a wonderful work, but you're not going to always have the artist or the assistant there to come every time. And also, I mean, you're not going to be doing that every time. I'm not going to be around. So that preservation for history, it's integral. I know it takes a long, long time, but it's quite incredible, actually. Yeah, and you also need, I mentioned degree of change. Some artists want their artworks to like sort of like change and evolve in time, which is sort of counterintuitive for a conservator, right? But if that is the intent, that needs to be documented, and you need to say that it is okay, and that at a certain point when you reach a certain level of change, then it's like no longer a good representation of the artwork, and then there are like different avenues to explore once you get there. But all of that needs to be thoroughly documented, and also conservators can advise artists, right? We're not telling them what to do. No. We're just they can ask a question, and then we say, well, if you mix A and B in time, you will get, you know, such and such results if in such and such conditions. So just to give them an idea of how things might evolve, materials might age, or certain techniques might work a certain way, and then they make a decision like knowing that. It's not necessarily something on the curriculum of art school. It's Queens in the conservation lab, but you know that you're going to know coming out of art school, let's say, when you're putting such and such together, that one thing could be completely destroying the other. And it's fascinating when those come up too in terms of acquisitions, because it does happen, and the kinds of dialogues of what's acceptable. And sometimes the artist will want to change it, and that's you know, just to make it more stable, and that's interesting as well. I have one more question. From Happy Canadian Mom, thank you. How many works of art go through this lab each year? That's a good. I don't know the answer to that. Is it? How active is it? You can only handle so much.
We can only handle so much, and it really depends on the activity. So if we get like last year was an incredibly busy year for us here in lab, because we had, in terms of painting, sometimes like objects, there'll be like, you know, thousands or like hundreds and hundreds of objects, but just for paintings we had like multiple shows on the road to prepare to go on the for travel. So it's and a bunch of these works were from the NGC collection, but we also had loans coming in that we had to prepare for, then, you know, to ship to other venues. So that is an incredible amount of work and coordination between the creating department, technical services, the framing department, photography, and you need to keep this moving so that you can get to every single. So it really, It really depends on it's activity driven.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's and I know, and we have to wrap it up actually, and see. Okay, one last maybe question, but I'm actually minding the time because actually I think we do get cut off of this forum after an hour, and we're getting close to it. But
Yeah.
at any rate, well, here the last MC. What's your favorite type of media or artwork to work on? I know you're a paintings
Oh, I'm a
conservator,
paintings
but
conservator. I do love, I have a soft spot for modern art. So anything that is unexpected or you have mixed media with a bunch of surprise and issues that are unfamiliar, nice juicy problems.
yeah,
I do love that. I used to work with contemporary art as well, and so having a dialogue with artists is something that I also really like. But being able, so we do work like very quietly, sort of like mousy work in lab, but we also work with so many departments in the building. We're in the storage vaults, we're in the exhibition spaces, we're sometimes we do site work.
yeah,
And we travel too, which is like not something that we're really doing
yeah.
right
I
now,
know we're
but
a bit on hold
yeah,
with that, but yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Well, I think Marie-Catherine, thank you so much. I know that it was actually astounding to think about the kind of volume actually that goes through, and I know how busy things are. But when you're in the lab, I mean, it's just the way that you balance what looks to be like focused attention and completely calm and methodical with, I know what is a kind of like, deadlines and demands and shows coming up and that sort of thing. It's really quite astonishing. So thank you for sharing some insight into your world at the gallery and
Thank
what
you.
you
And I will
do.
say cheers, but I can't drink
I,
anything. I have a
so I
an
didn't
empty
ask you.
beaker
Yes, I
here.
know. This is one thing we
It's a,
didn't think about in House Blend for you, because I can drink my tea and how bad I was just drinking away. And you're in the lab, can't do anything. So yeah,
that's fine. No, because for my safety and the safety of objects in lab, we are not allowed to eat or
yeah.
drink in the
Well,
lab environment.
I will say, hopefully now you can go grab whatever you want or need, and thank you everyone for joining. And we will be back again for the next House Blend. Stay tuned, and yeah, MC, great chatting with you. Great to see you, and great to see the lab again.
Thank you. It's great to see you.
Okay,
Can't wait to see you back here too.
hopefully not too long. Yeah.
All
Okay.
right.
Bye. Bye.
Enjoy the National Gallery, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.